The Sounds of ECLA deep dives into the business worlds of our members and partners.
What is the growth direction of your business? Where's the areas you want to focus on?
We learn about the challenges you've never heard of.
Sometimes work is going to need more of your time. And if you want to be successful, you have to be willing to do that.
The skills and habits that are the backbone of their businesses.
Life comes in seasons, just like the year comes in seasons. Some seasons will be really tough.
And the feedback and advice that set them up for success.
Being able to separate yourself from feedback and know that it's not personal and take it constructively, then you can only ever better the product that you've built.
This is The Sounds of ECLA. Welcome to The Sounds of ECLA. It's Maxi here. As always, I'm joined by my co-host Loz.
Good morning.
Looking forward to today, Loz. We've got a man who we know very well. He's been an ECLA member for a long time, over 20 years as a consultant in leadership and culture assessment. He also stepped away after 20 years, and for the last 13, he's had his own business, which is Composure. I want to welcome Jeremy Nichols. Welcome, mate.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Hey, you stepping away, tell us a little bit about why that was and a little bit about Composure.
From the original business?
Yes.
Yeah. So I had two journeys when I first started consulting as actually a young buck. I really didn't have any clue what I was doing, but I forced my way into it, sort of sliding door moment, and I took it. And so I cut my teeth on leadership development and then ended up working for that firm for 11 years, ended up being an owner in it, ended up running it. So it was a great experience for that. Then did another journey with another organisation and another smaller organisation, which I bought into that and then sold that into an ASX listed environment. So ended up in my second career in consulting in being an executive in an ASX listed business and running a fairly substantial consulting part of that business. So having had those experiences and then going, well, actually, I think it's time for me to start my own. And I really wanted to create a consulting business that create opportunities for other consultants to grow their careers like I was afforded that opportunity when I was young. So, yeah, it's been a really interesting journey, and I'm very lucky. Because I feel like I've been unemployed for 13 years. It's just every day is different. You just got to keep doing good work.
It's very broad, leadership and culture. So what's the sort of specifics, or what do you think is your real your specialist?
Yeah, yes, it is broad because at its core, you're looking at behaviour within, but I'd talk about it in the context of organisations, and then in the context of how is that helping or how is it holding you back, in particular achieving your strategy. So that when you think about what that means, because when you look at organisations, you know that people behave in a certain way, and sometimes that's fantastic and works really well, like what I experienced in ECLA, and you just see a culture that works, and then you go into other organisations where it doesn't. And so that's really where I help organisations of being able to go, if you're good, how do you become great? And if you're really average or poor, then you've got to find a way out of it, because otherwise you're just never going to perform at your best.
Do you find the appetite for the good to great is greater than the ones that are sort of saying, because they've got, I don't know, blind spots, or they're not quite sure exactly where they're at, or they just don't want to look in the mirror and really face the truth?
So I find that organisations, particularly leaders, are making the choice of whether they employ me or not, or take me on, right? So if a leader is reasonably enlightened, then they're going to go, yeah, we need to do work around that. So the good to great is probably more likely. The irony is that when organisations aren't going well and then they go, oh, we need help, then the leader themselves are going to be challenged by that because they've created that culture. Invariably, though, the third option, which is when someone new comes in and they're wanting to make a shift, and more often than not, that's when I probably come into an organisation.
Jeremy, taking a step from working in a large organisation with lots of people around you, extra support, different departments, to going out on your own, what has been something that you've learnt through that journey of transitioning to yourself running everything, and what's a challenge that you thought, oh, that'll be all right, it'll be easy, but it's been a lot harder than what you expected on your own?
Yeah, I had a number of consultants and talk about it from probably the last 20 or so years was in leadership roles. So you when you're in a leadership role trying to grow a consultancy, that's part of the role.
Yep.
And there's, like any manager, there is significant things that you need to do well, right? And I try to listen to my own advice that I would be giving to
Yeah.
to clients to be able to go, okay, so well, how's that working? How am I getting the best out of the team? So in what I was doing for that period of time was a lot about leadership. I deliberately chose to continue to consult to clients at the same time. And the reason I did that, and I used to get the last job, I got a bit of pushback on that, saying you shouldn't be doing that. You should be just leading it. But my argument was, in fact, when I consulted, I always took a younger consultant with me,
Yep.
or someone I could grow and develop, and they could learn in real time. And I found that way more beneficial. So that's sort of going from that environment and then going to myself. At the height of Composure, I did have 8 consultants. So I was growing that, and that was a whole array of challenges and complexities and opportunities, and it was great.
Yep.
But it was a lot harder when you've got your own business, and I think that's one of the most difficult parts, because you're not only trying to grow a business, but you've also got to cover your costs, and you've got to be able to generate the revenue, and that's probably the learning which I've found not hard, because I knew it was part of it, but it became more accentuated when they become a little bit more dependent on, what do you got for me?
Yeah.
And I'm going, yeah, but I've set the business up
Yeah.
for you to go and get that. So that was always probably the biggest challenge, was just being able to get people to take on what was in my head and my philosophy and my process and make it their own.
How much time do you spend working in the business and on the business? Do you find that hard?
No.
No.
Only because I think I'm just practiced at it now.
Yeah.
I'm constantly working between bigger picture, looking forward. So having some terrific conversations around AI at the moment, and trying to understand what that looks like, both for my clients but also for me.
Is that putting time aside though for you to do that, like every week or every month, to look ahead, or is it just about what comes up?
Yeah, probably what comes up. To be honest, I don't necessarily. If I get caught in consulting projects, that's the harder, because you end up just doing the work. Right. So that becomes, once you get really busy, that's, you've got to create that space. At the moment now, I've got a good rhythm. I feel like I can structure my time, so I'm doing good consulting work for clients and creating that space, but I've also got space
to grow
for me to think bigger picture.
Yeah. If you're looking for somewhere to hold your next professional offsite, a place with brilliant service, all the amenities you need, and a stunning location, look no further than Eclar. Find out more at eclar.com.
What about some of those habits? I know you're a keen bike rider. You're always out 3 or 4 times a week. What are some of the habits that you create, some of the skills that you've learned over time that hold you in good stead now, and that they're non-negotiables for you?
I think you create in a sporting context, you create a muscle memory.
Yep.
I think it's a bit similar to that. So, I learned pretty early on, the harder you work, the luckier you become. And that doesn't mean you're working desperately hard. It just means you're working smarter, and you're prepared to make the calls. You're prepared to, keep abreast of what's going on. So I think that's just been a really good habit. And even today, I'll think of someone, and instead of going, I should call them, I call them.
Yep.
Right. So I'm like, oh, Nick Maxwell. Well, I saw him in the street the other day. And I'll sort of just go, well, what, that synchronistic moment. So therefore I'll just go, I'll just make the call. I don't think about it. I just make the call. And then they go, oh, I was just thinking about doing something. And so people go, oh, you're just really lucky. Whereas I'm going, no, you just make, and that's a discipline that it's become habitual.
Is that work ethic and how it came about a little bit to do with your football career? Because you were at the Demons for a couple of years in the under-19s, and then I know you don't like talking about it, but we have talked about it.
I don't mind talking about the Demons because we won on them.
But even the difference between what when you reflect on it now, your time there, and what you learnt in that time.
Yeah, well, I mean, sport's been a really big part of my life, just for lifestyle, but also fortunate enough to have a bit of a crack at the demons. The irony is I'm talking to you about football, but you know, mine was very limited career in AFL, VFL side. But it was interesting. Probably learnt more once I went to the amateurs and had um, a leadership roles there. So I learnt so much about what I was, who I was, and how I could lead in that environment. So, and you learn disciplines, you learn, team skills, you learn a lot of those things that when you reflect back, even goal setting,
Yep.
we were chatting earlier, weren't we, when I was at Melbourne and I did get a senior game,
Yep.
a few of them, but a senior game, I was going, God, got to get a senior game, got the game. And I went, what's next? I did set myself another goal, and it was a learning after that.
Yep.
I know that's part of my personality type is to set goals and go for it. But I learned, it wasn't until I reflected afterwards, I went, why didn't I keep going?
Yeah.
I didn't set myself a goal.
Yep.
We've had some good chats about communication and feedback and navigating that within a workplace. What's some feedback that you've received along your journey that's hurt you or challenged you at times that has made you a better leader, a better consultant, a better business person that you're now consulting out to other people with feedback?
Yeah. Well, my first consulting job, a company called Clark Hummerston, and extraordinary business with extraordinary consultants. And I said, I was a sort of young guy there, and incredibly supportive, but very challenging.
Yeah.
Right. So feedback then was, you got it in a way that was constructive,
Yeah.
but they didn't hold
Hold
back
back,
either.
yeah.
Plus, in the 80s when you were playing footy, and some of the coaches I had, it was pretty brutal feedback. So you sort of learn a bit of resilience around that.
Yeah.
And I always took the feedback. There's always an emotional response to feedback, no matter what people say. They go, "Oh, I love feedback." No. But it's how you process that, take it on board, and then you learn to let's just breathe through that for a moment and then listen to what it is, what's the message, specifically around a brutal, something really. I think it was communication style and being able to read the room.
Yep.
Because sometimes you get caught in it's about the presentation as opposed to reading the room. So I learned that pretty early on from pretty significant feedback.
Yeah.
And because you sometimes when you're just at the front, it's all about how do I show up rather than what am I doing to make that experience really good for
Yeah.
people.
And you're going into businesses to give feedback to boards, like you said earlier, or exec teams who are experienced and probably have some very strong views on how they do things, not just junior staff where you've probably got a bit more buy-in maybe. How do you find giving feedback to some of those stronger, experienced leaders that may not be open to the feedback that you're coming in to give?
Well, you got to build a foundation first. So, how do you build that foundation of trust? If they know you, that helps. If they've experienced what you've done in the past, then that helps. But you've got to establish that trust, because unless you do that, then their defense mechanisms kick in. Part of often the process that I will do with a client is understanding their personality drivers. So use a particular tool for that. That is a great way because I get to know them at a personal level and I develop a real trust with them to actually help them navigate what's going on for them.
Yep.
So the process I use helps in that. The difficulty is often giving feedback to someone in a group format.
Yep.
Because
In front of others.
Yep. It's always beneficial to do it one-on-one, but sometimes that feedback, if it's done well, is making sure that we're actually getting things on the table and you create an environment and a culture where feedback is okay.
Yeah.
Right? But people have different experiences, they have different emotional responses, they have different ways of dealing, and it's tuning into how they react to that.
Yeah.
Is that your own tool that you've built?
I haven't built that tool. It's what's called the Enneagram, but it's a particular version of the Enneagram, which is been around for thousands of years in one form or another, but it's a great language that helps people understand themselves and their drivers, but also understand colleagues.
Yep.
So, so that's been super helpful.
Yep. You spoke about AI and how you're not only are you navigating it and trying to learn more about it, but how a business is navigating it. And it's a challenging time at the moment in Victoria in particular with cost of living and petrol and financial crisis and people talking about recessions. So how are people navigating that from your experiences at the moment?
So it's you if you've been around for long enough, you see these changes. So over a period of time, so it used to be called technology, now it's digital, now it's AI. So, but all of those are significant shifts in the way people work and the way they respond to the work and so on. So it's been interesting because I've had a couple of ideas on how I can apply it to some of the culture diagnostics that I use, and been thinking about using avatars as a way to capture information insights. So rather than a survey, is that you have an interaction with people, and I think that would work really well. So I'm looking, going, oh, this is good, and I've seen the technology, and I'm going, oh, God, this would be fantastic. And then you talk to clients, and they're going, oh, yeah. And it's interesting, the response, because their yeah is not that they don't think it would work. It's just
Don't know it.
there's risks associated with that, and are we aware of the risk, and we thought about that, and are we being too bold? So it's really interesting to see the response, and it's a normal response that you get. Some people who are going to be the explorers going to go, great, let's run. There's going to be the people who are going, no, it's just it's not never going to be a fad, but it's no, let's put our head in the sand. And then normal distribution, there's a critical mass in between who are going, I'm going to wait to see where this fits. And when you're talking with clients, this is happening very, very quickly. And you can't wait.
I'm a big believer in you can't be at your absolute best from home, and that you need to be at work and you need to know what's going on. And I don't need to log on to a Teams call to have a conversation. It's something that I can have across a desk in 30 seconds. And obviously the government is trying to force on us stay at home or work from home for a couple of days a week, not understanding the intricacies of every single business. So for me, it's a real frustration. And I know that for a lot of our members who are small to medium business, who rely on each other and rely on the people around them, it's going to be a huge challenge for them. So talk to us a little bit about what you're seeing and hearing and the experiences that you have around it.
Yeah. Well, firstly, I always worry when governments try to legislate things too much, because I'm a bit more of a believer of let the businesses and organisations decide, because, it's just, there's too many variables, there's too many things, and not thinking through, well, if I get a work from home, but there's a whole lot of people who can't. Right. And then you're starting to think about one of my daughters is a teacher. So now they're talking about work from home from a teacher. Well, she used to be a teacher. So it's sort of this, and I'm going, how does that work? And so that's the first thing, which is I just think that's a worry. Secondly is in the work I do, people, we still use online and being able to do that. So very efficient, can work really well. But when it comes to doing strategy work, when it comes to doing leadership development work, when it comes to doing working as a team, it's a contact sport. You just cannot get away from that. And to think that, and we tried it and we had experiences through COVID. So, and I really struggled in the context of doing the development work online, particularly at the level I do it. It seemed a little bit surface level, and it's a contact sport, so you just don't get the nuances. Apply that to real work day to day. I worry about the younger generation, and I've got 4 kids who are all in the workforce now. I worry that they are work from home and they're not getting the experiences. How do they get that learning? And I think it's a bit of a cop out for managers as well, because they need to lean in to lead and grow and develop. And doing that online is much harder. And I do worry about how yes, they can learn it intellectually they can read stuff, but it's
Different.
different. You know, you just don't get the nuances. And so translate the work from home.
Yep.
I think it's horses for courses, and some it works well. But if that becomes the norm and you get lazy as an organisation and don't create the space where you do come together, and when you do come together, it's very purposeful, then unless you're doing that, I think we're setting ourselves up for failure, because you just don't build that trust bank,
Yep.
which then means that you can't have that good debate
Mm.
because people are wary. They don't quite work that out. So you're not building the relationships.
And if you call a meeting and you come in person to a meeting, you don't just start the meeting straight off. You're talking to each other going, oh, I saw the D's got rolled on the weekend, or how did your daughter's ballet go on the weekend? All those little intricacies of building relationships and building culture. Whereas if we log on, we just become transactional, and you're not going through those same conversations. You don't see people's body language. You don't understand that. And I'm with you. I think that there's a real challenge for the generations coming through who haven't even experienced the real world, so to speak, because they've always been through this COVID, or they've learned through COVID, and this working from home. They're missing out on so many intricacies that we were lucky enough to have.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it will be interesting because they're brought up in a social media world as well. So, you know, maybe we're just being Luddites. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, maybe it's just a new way. So I'm sort of also aware that if I've got a limiting mindset, do I need to think about that differently? But I still believe in it, and I just see it. Obviously, I talk to my kids and what their work like.
I was just going to say, what advice do you give to your kids?
I give them lots of advice.
I'm sure you
Just
do,
ask them.
but having worked in businesses, so you know what the problems or issues that businesses are going through, or what they're looking for, or the people that they're wanting to bring in. Do you sort of translate that to feedback or advice to your kids coming through?
Yes and no. I want them to
Learn.
explore it, and if they ask me questions, then I'm more than happy to. But I do sort of check in and work out what's bring the best out in them from their organisations that they work for. I mean, I feel lucky in the context that the organisations that they all work for are bringing the best out of them.
Yeah.
But they're also, my only advice is to all of them is, particularly at the early stages, is when people, is there anyone who wants to do something? Put your hand up. Yeah. As a young person, put your hand up. That's what I did. And I just put my hand up to everything.
Yeah.
I had no idea what I was doing, but I learned. Right? And I made mistakes, and I didn't quite get it right, but I learned.
Yeah.
And thankfully, that's one thing I have imparted is put your hand up when someone says, can anyone do this? Just do it.
A big thanks to the production team at This Is a Studio for producing this episode. They handle everything, the equipment, the technical expertise, and the editing, delivering you a complete, ready-to-upload episode in both audio and video. All you have to do is talk. Whether you're launching a podcast or leveling up your current one, they make it incredibly easy. If you need any support, have a chat to the team here at eClar or reach out to This Is a Studio.
You're a very calm, level-headed, considered person. What's something that frustrates you with work? Or that you're passionate?
I'm not sure I get super frustrated these days.
Yeah.
I'm probably older, wiser maybe.
Yeah.
I still get the, it's not a frustration, but I still get the energy and all that stuff. And if I lose that, then I might as well retire. I think that's sort of that energy and lifeblood that brings to it. It's not a frustration of annoyance. It's just frustration when I see potential in individuals or teams or organisations, and I'm helping them get there, and they haven't quite seen it yet. And I see similar mistakes that they do, and I say, but I'm not being critical of them because they're human beings.
Yeah.
We all make mistakes, and we all don't quite get it right, and maybe I haven't been able to get them to see that yet. But that's the only frustration, I think, is, my purpose is lifting potential.
Yeah.
And that's very core to how I see it. And those two words are really important because lifting requires effort.
Yeah.
It doesn't just happen. You gotta lean in, you gotta do that. And sometimes you're behind trying to lift and help them, but they've got to do it themselves to realise their potential. So
what's the biggest frustration you're seeing in businesses at the moment that you're sort of going in to either help shift or give advice on? Is there a current trending theme, or are they all very different?
They're all. I work across so many
Yeah.
different industries, and which is one of the great things of that I've learned. I've been in the bottom of coal mines. I've been dealing with cemeteries. I deal with banks. I deal with schools. I deal with healthcare. All cybersecurity. So it's great because I get to see all these different industry and what the world evolves around.
Yeah.
But they're all fundamentally got the core is about human beings who run it and the nuances of all that. So in terms of where they're at now, and there's just so much volatility, so much uncertainty. And when I'm trying to help organizations appreciate that the world going, be clear about what you stand for, be clear about what you can do, at least get in control of the things you can control.
Yeah.
The noise is deafening, and those who can keep away from the noise and don't let the noise take over, they need to listen, but not let it take over. Then they're the ones who are going to succeed and keep focused on what they need to do. The core fundamentals are still the same.
Yeah.
Talk about lifting as one of your fundamentals. How do you get to a point where you're lifting, and it's just getting too heavy and you've got to cut that rope?
So I do have to help clients a lot with this, and at the core is I'm sort of development orientated. So even when I was employing people, I knew one of my strengths was development. One of my weaknesses was development because I'm going, I'll get them there. I'll get them there. And just sometimes people are never going to make it. And when it starts to have a negative effect on the rest of the team, the rest of the organisation, you got to call it. And so that's often hard for managers and leaders. Some it's easy, they just do it. Others find it more difficult. But I always look at it in the context of, yes, you want to be supportive of the individual and you need to be supportive of the team. And if that individual is having a negative effect on the rest of the team, your responsibility is for the rest of the team. And sometimes, I remember I've actually had to retrench or move some people on, and it was very difficult for them. But I've met a few of them afterwards, and they said it was probably the best thing you ever did because it shifted their way of thinking. It shifted that, oh God, I need to do things differently.
Yeah.
And sometimes that occurs as well, and we get caught in a bit of a rut.
Yep.
Yeah.
What about for anyone out there listening that thinks they need some lifting, they need some support? Where do they find you?
Oh, well, my business is called Composure. So, so composure.com.au, that's where you find me. And it's really, I work at that organisational level as a whole, and culture and strategy, working with teams, so intact teams, and being able to work with that team to be performing at their best, and individuals within that team. So if there's work that people need in doing in that areas that's is going to help them, then happy to help.
Mate, you opened my mind up, and I know Loz feels the same every time we have a conversation or have a coffee or come across each other at eClass. So big thanks for joining us today. This has been the Sounds of eClass. Big thank you to This Is a Studio as well for all their support helping us put together this podcast, and we look forward to seeing you again next time.